This is the cartoon that I asked you to look at. The story behind it is that Amazon was pushing and pushing publishers to sell their books through Amazon Kindle, the ebook version, and to lower their prices. That would have meant lower profits for the publishers, but increased profits for Amazon, which has no publication expenses. They're not paying the writers, they do not produce the physical books. They simply distribute the ebook version, the electronic version. Hachette resisted, also because a lot of writers, authors, are against it. They see that their own profits, their own livelihood is being endangered by Amazon's techniques. Anyways, this is what the New Yorker published. And I asked you to focus on stereotypes. And we need to look at this particular cartoon in terms of what is the theme that we see represented here. The theme is unethical, non-ethical business practices. Unethical to the point of bordering on violence. Of course, nobody from Amazon went down to Hachette to threaten public physical violence. But the notion is that there is a very unfair, borderline criminal negotiation tactic used by Amazon. So the connection is thuggishness and brutality, if you want, the power of the muscle against normal ethical conduct. And who do they choose, the New Yorker? Who does the New Yorker choose to symbolize violence and thuggishness? These characters, because of the mental image that we already have of Italian Americans, immediately look like Italian Americans. So it's not simply saying Italians were offended because they're represented as being, big guys, thuggish, very low class. No, that is not the point. It's not that representation, it's not the way they are depicted, but it's the meaning behind it. So you want to represent violence, unethical conduct, brutishness, thuggishness in America. You use these images because these images are already inside of us and we recognize them. And there you have the representation of violence by means of the symbol that everybody understands is identifying Italian Americans. That is how you exploit and reinforce a stereotype. That's why Italian Americans were extremely offended. Look at the woman now. Very few noticed. But this again is a stereotype. This is an operator sitting at a desk, a secretary, very low-level secretary. And what does she look like? She has gray hair, glasses, probably elderly, or certainly not a very young person, with this sort of timid demeanor. Yes, that is also a stereotype, and it is insulting. It is the way women are represented. Whenever you see women represented, they tend to have certain roles, not only, but they are charged with certain characteristics. What if the topic of a cartoon was laziness and somebody decided to use these images? Would someone be right to be offended by this? Or, well, what's the big deal? Everybody knows that that is the reality. What if the topic of the cartoon was being sneaky, not worthy of any trust, unethical, somebody who conducts business in a fraudulent way? Would certain people see themselves represented here and be offended that those traits, human traits, sneakiness, are actually represented with a stereotypical image of their own ethnic group?